Hi everyone, my name is Kyle. I'm the proud owner of this airplane right here. I've get a lot of questions on what exactly is it. You may have heard of it as a triple tail Bellanca. You may have heard of it as a cardboard Constellation. This is a 1957 Bellanca Cruisemaster 14-19-2. This is November 7658 Bravo, serial number 4009. And I've been proud to own this airplane and enjoyed it quite a bit. In the last 12 months I've put roughly 65 tack hours on it and counting. It is a turnkey airplane and it is extremely practical, especially for being a classic. So you'll get the good parking at fly-ins and so forth, and you can actually use it to run errands and run around with your family and get a 1,000-pound useful load out of it. And I cruise in the tune of 160 to 170 indicated, and that is in miles an hour. But today I just kind of want to give you a brief background on Bellanca and their history, a background on this particular airplane and its series, and also kind of take you through a walk around, just kind of explain to you all of the unique attributes that this airplane has. So we'll start off with Giuseppe Bellanca. He immigrated to America in 1911, built his first airplane in 1913. He's responsible for the conventional design with aircraft having the engine in the front, the wing in the middle, and the empennage in the rear. That was not common before him, and that kind of set the standard, of course. Bellanca was famous for speed and efficiency records. They actually nearly were the airplane that was used by Charles Lindbergh, except a business deal fell through and he of course used a Spirit of St. Louis. But 2 weeks after Lindbergh set his record, Bellanca actually carried a passenger across the Atlantic. Shortly thereafter, they flew an airplane from Japan to Washington State. So this is kind of what they were known for. Not really known for the light airplane market until the late 1930s when they saw a need for it. So in 1937 they came out with the Cruise airline. Now this had a few different engines, or a couple different engines, but was interrupted by the outbreak of World War II. World War II began and Bellanca produced parts for various aircraft during World War II. After the war they returned to the Cruise airline and continued that line until 1956. But in 1949 they did see the need for more horsepower, faster airplane, so they came out with the Cruisemaster. That started off with 190 horsepower and it featured hydraulic gear and hydraulic flaps. But in 1957 they came out with this model that you see here, the 14-19-2. Now the significance of this model is that it was only made for 2 years, 57, 58, had hydraulic gear and flaps, had a beefed up structure, upgraded paint, upgraded instrument panel, upgraded interior. But the biggest difference is right here. This is a 0470K from factory with a Macaulay prop constant speed STC. Originally came with a Hartzell constant speed. So this is 230 horsepower, and as far as firewall forward, it's nearly identical to a 182. Easy to find parts, easy to maintain, everyone knows how to work on it. And it makes this airplane an absolute performer. It is a blast to fly, and you have power to spare. You can truly put 4 people in this plane and some bags with full fuel, as long as they're not overweight or anything, and you can comfortably carry them. It's not like a 172 on a hot day with 4 people. Everyone knows that that is no fun. So kind of giving you a background on Bellanca. Now I'll talk to you about the background of this particular airplane, 58 Bravo. So this airplane spent its first 25 or 30 years or so in the Chicago area, owned by probably 3 different individuals. And in that time it had, I'm gonna assume, a ground loop. It had a right wingtip repair in 1958, barely a year old, and they had that happen, but it was repaired. Life goes on, and in the 70s it went to Ohio, and thereafter went to Missouri, and then to Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Nevada. Now this is over, of course, 2 or 3 decades, but that's where it went. It spent 2 decades or so in California. It was owned by a prominent member of the Bellanca community. During that time, he had a fuel starvation issue. It's been replaced, but these used to have 2 fuel selector valves. Now it has 1 for simplicity. But he ultimately ran one of the tanks dry, and he belly landed it in the desert. Not a significant amount of damage. They went through the engine, put a new prop on it, new motor mount, and they replaced the firewall and boot cowl. They replaced a section of leading edge, and the repair was excellent. So you can tell by the video, it's a pretty nice airplane. I just always want to be kind of clear to anyone that's potentially interested, you know, that did happen. Repaired by Dan Torrey, who is kind of the Bellanca guru in Southern California, and his name appears in this log, but quite a bit. He did excellent work on the airplane. Anywho, going back just a little ways, in 2001 this had a major refurbishment by someone I consider master mechanic and the director of a museum that put out amazing restorations. This was his personal plane. He completely repainted it. He did new upholstery that was true to the original interior that you would have seen in 1957, and it looks really nice. We'll show it to you here soon. He rebuilt the engine. The engine was overhauled in 2001, and the airplane had all new hardware on the control surfaces, new cables, new bushings all throughout the landing gear and so forth. He really, I'm not going to call it a restoration, but I mean, he really went through the airplane, and since then it's been upgraded and loved all along. Like I said, I've flown it 65 hours in the past 12 months. I've been having a blast with it. Can actually use it. I've taken it camping and go to grass strips and so forth, and just really enjoyed it. Let's see, the airplane has total time 1,775 hours and counting. Very low time airframe, and this engine is actually the original engine that it rolled off the factory line with. Of course, it's been overhauled and now has 450 hours since overhaul, but just kind of a cool thing you don't usually see. Well, that's kind of the history of the airplane. If you've stuck with me this far, I'll try to do my best to take you through a walk around on it and explain to you everything as I'm walking around the airplane. I'm going to be pretty thorough, so you know, if you need to skip ahead, no problem. So we'll just start at the nose. Like I said, it's a Macaulay prop, constant speed propeller. This has an STC for it. This has a bracket air filter. This is it is an 0470K like a 182, but this air filter, you call bracket directly and just let them know that you have a Cruisemaster. They know exactly what you're looking for. They have an abundance of these air filters. One thing that's different than the 182 is you can see here that it has dual exhausts. These dual exhausts sound quite a bit different than a 182. It sounds pretty good. I'd like to say a lot better than a 182. This one actually does have a cowl flap. It's in the closed position right now. The engine has fine wire spark plugs on the lower. It has great compressions. It runs like a top. It runs extremely smooth, and it's very enthusiastic. It starts first try even when it's cold. Just really had great luck with it. I mean, it just runs like a top, and you'll be able to see in the photos that I post with this that the engine is extremely clean. No leaks or anything like that. Okay, we have wing root fairings. These are something that is kind of, I guess, extra. I think it adds a knot or two, maybe, if you're lucky, but it has them, so there you go. The landing gear on this airplane, it's a retractable landing gear, of course. If you look at it from the nose, it kind of looks like it's out at an angle, and no, that's not from my hard landings. That is how it came from the factory. This aids in ground stability. It also allows you to rotate tires and get a little bit more life out of them. I also understand that it is a stronger design because the landing gear strut is at a 90-degree angle to the dihedral of the wing. That being said, these gear struts are pretty easy to maintain. There's a very large steel spring inside of them. I replaced both of those maybe 50 or 60 hours ago with brand new certified springs, and that is what the airplane actually rides on. It does have hydraulic fluid in the strut for shock absorption, and pretty easy to top off. There's just a little plug, you open it up and you just fill it to that level until it leaks out, put the plug back in. So that provides your shock absorption. This airplane has a approval for Cleveland wheels and brakes, so they have been upgraded. Landing gear is of course hydraulic, like I mentioned before. is locked in the down position by this linkage here going to an over center condition. It also is backed up by hydraulic pressure in the actuator. This here is a mechanical indication that your gear is actually in the down position. I also have gear lights in the inside of the airplane that are activated on a micro switch. You can see here the swing is extremely smooth, very, very, very slick. It's a very fast airplane because of it. There's no rivets or extrusions, so very little parasitic drag on this airplane. And it gets with it. Like I said, it goes about 160 to 170 indicated. You can see this wing is extremely straight, very smooth. This wing has two very large wood spars. It has plywood ribs. It is a plywood skin, and it was dipped in varnish at the factory to seal everything. This wing is extremely overbuilt. I've heard that there's an advertisement with the entire Green Bay starting line standing on the wingtip to wingtip on these airplanes that they had in one of their advertisements way back when. I've never seen the photo, but I thought that was pretty cool and just testament to how stout this airplane is. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is in 57, 58 they made the Cruisemaster. In 59 they put a training wheel on it, and in 1966 it developed into the Super Viking. So this essentially is the tail wheel version of the Super Viking, but this one's kind of a holy grail. It's the biggest engine, most power that they ever put in a tail wheel version of this airplane. Nav lights, all the lights work on this airplane. All the panel lights and everything, you can fly it at VFR night as well. These ailerons, you can see that they have a pretty good span on them. They are extremely tight. You'll notice here that I can really not even get my fingernails in that gap there. It does not have much drag. Everything's extremely well fit. The ailerons are very responsive. It's very responsive and roll. It feels really nice. There is a push-pull rod that comes through the wing here. It's all internal. There's no control arms exposed. The control arm is actually on a track inside the wing here, and stays internal, comes out of the trailing edge here and into the leading edge of the aileron. So as you can see here, there is just not a lot of stuff protruding. The flaps are huge. I usually land partial flaps. Just know that you can land full flap, but if you bring the power off completely and you're full flaps in this, it'll come down like 1,500 feet a minute. So it really comes down well once you have the gear down and the flaps down. There's a lot of drag. It's very stable. You're talking like 172 type speeds. But again, you do need to carry some power if you decide to go full flaps. Very helpful for getting in short field though. I can tell you I've been to grass strips that are fairly short in this, and it's just not a problem for it at all. There is the right main tank right there. On the left hand wing there is the left main tank, and then you can see right here there's an auxiliary tank. So 3 tanks. You just run off of one at a time. This tank is 18 gallons, the other wing is 18 gallons as well. This is 14 gallons, and that is all usable, so you do have 50 gallons usable fuel in this airplane, and feel free to top it off and still put your family in. It's legal, and it still flies very, very nice. So here's something really cool about this airplane. It has a 150-pound baggage compartment that's absolutely massive, as you can tell. We usually have a toolbox in there and kind of a survival kit and so forth. You can haul quite a bit in there. Okay, continuing our walk around here, you see we have some flying wires on the tail, and you have that famous triple tail design. The battery compartment is right here. I have a almost brand new Concord RG35XC battery. That was the top of the line that I could buy for this airplane. That is, oh gosh, I would say something like coming up on a year old, maybe 10 months, 9 months or so. But anyways, the other battery was just fine in it. It was maybe 5 years old, so I decided to replace it. This starts enthusiastically first time, every time, like I said. It's kept in a heated hangar. It's been well loved, so that helps, but even still, if it's been out on the ramp sitting and stuff, I don't have a question that it'll fire up first try. If you look at the shape of the stabilator right here, on the Cruisemaster, it's a slightly different shape. It's more of an oval. On the Cruisairs, like you see much more often, it's a kidney bean shape, so that's one of the giveaways. Of course, this has a beefed up structure and engine and everything else too from the Cruisair, but cosmetically they don't look a heck of a lot different, so this is one of the things you can look at. There's only 105 of these built, and let's see, I've heard the number 15 to 20 of them still flying, so it's a fairly rare airplane, and you always get a lot of attention in it. This has gap seals. That is different. Most will not. It has gap seals on the rudder and the elevator, so it just makes it that much faster. We have the UAvionics ADS-B out, already equipped. This tail wheel here is a steerable tail wheel. This airplane is extremely honest on the ground for a tail dragger. Quite honestly, it's one of the easiest tail wheel airplanes that I've ever flown, but don't tell anyone that. It will make you look good, I promise you. This tail wheel here is a essentially brand new tail wheel, 50 hours on it. I put new bearings in and everything as well. There's new bushings in the tail wheel strut. It has a spring in it and hydraulic fluid in it as well, just like the main gear struts. So pretty much an identical design, but it's as close to new as you can get. Very effective trim in this airplane. Large trim tab, works great. Rudder control works excellent as well. The airplane flies essentially hands off, but on the ground or in a crosswind, I've found that I don't usually have too much of an issue. I'd say you pretty comfortably, if you're proficient, the airplane can land in a 10 to 15 knot crosswind and be all right. I wouldn't push it much beyond 15 knots, not because you couldn't do it, but I just wouldn't really make that practice in it. It does have a fairly large broadside. Continuing on, you see the large flaps over here. It looks just like the other wing. Imagine that. So we'll kind of just walk around here. I'll just get you an idea of the condition of this wing. It's very, very slick as well, very smooth when you look down the spar. As far as having a wood wing, wood is not limited to life cycles like aluminum is. So as Piper and some other aircraft have had issues with fatigue cracking, you don't have to worry about that with wood. But just make sure it's hangered, take care of it, and it'll take care of you. As we know, the steermen and pits and so forth, they all have wood spars, and it doesn't seem to limit them too much, and doesn't limit this airplane either. It's an extremely strong wing. Continuing on, heated pitot, taxi and landing light, they work as well. Stall warning horn works. Your mechanical gear indication as well. Let's see, I don't think there's anything really else on this side that's any different than the other. You do have a side window that you can open up. It's kind of fun to taxi around with your arm out and stuff. You look pretty cool. So continuing on, you know, that is pretty much it for the outside of the airplane. I'm trying to think if I've forgotten anything. I'm always, of course, happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. I love to talk airplanes, as you can probably tell, so don't worry about calling and asking questions if you have them. So we'll just kind of stand up here, get you a view of the airplane from up here. Really nice windscreen, and the windows are in great shape as well. So these were replaced in 2001, so you don't have to worry about that. I've got a lock up here, and then of course this handle here. Sorry, I'm doing this left-handed, so I'm a little awkward. But kind of like a Bonanza, you've got that catch right there that holds the door open. Some nice trim around this door jamb. You can see, I think the video will speak for itself. You can see that we take care of it, love the airplane, and it's taking care of us well. That's an original headliner, believe it or not. Check out the ashtrays up here too. Isn't that kind of cool? But anywho, this was reupholstered, like I said, in 2001, and it's been loved ever since. I vacuum it, leather condition it. I'm always polishing on the plane and it's taking care of it. I'm really proud of it. I'm gonna set the camera kind of down real quick. I need to hop in. Okay, here we are. Here is life inside the Cruisemaster. So just kind of get you an idea of what everything looks like. I will walk you through the panel if you've stuck with me thus far. So we'll just start down here. Hydraulic gear and flaps. The pressure is right here. Here's your cabin heat. Works well. Circuit breakers. Here is a fuel totalizer. This is really, really handy. The gauges in these airplanes, the fuel gauges, are not extremely accurate. You know, the fuel totalizer is just awesome. It's extremely accurate. So you can use the gauges, but this is so much nicer to use as a reference. your ammeter, volts and amps. Here's your tach, manifold pressure. Here's a Westach 4-in-1 engine instrument. We have, if you can't see, it says CHT, oil temperature, exhaust gas temperature, and oil pressure. Really nice unit there. We have an ILS VOR. It works great. You can use a ILS in this. This is not certified for IFR right now, but you could do it if you wanted. I just personally haven't been worried about it, but I checked to make sure it works. Here is your Garmin GMA 340 audio panel. Radios work great. This is a Garmin SL30 Navcom, and this is a pretty cool little piece of kit right here. I've really enjoyed it. And then here's a Benix King Com, picking up weather and so forth. It works great too, but it's of course my number 2 radio. Transponder here, of course ADS-B out. Turn coordinator, VSI. Fun fact, you can peg the VSI in this airplane on takeoff, climbing at best rate. This thing is a powerhouse. So I'll talk a little more about the flight characteristics in a moment. Airspeed, check out that VNE. I've never been that fast in it. I'm usually cruising 160 to 170 in smooth air at a conservative power setting. Altimeter, attitude indicator, and here's your heading indicator. Just in all disclosure, the heading indicator hangs up, so just want to let you know that's the only thing I'm aware of as far as instrumentation that even has any issue. But just want to let you know if you're interested in this airplane. Coming down here, pitot heat, primer, flap indicator. We have our fuel gauges here. You just select which tank you're running on. Fuel pressure. Fuel boost pump. This has an approval for an electric boost pump. The original came with a wobble pump. The electric boost pump, it works fantastic. It is a Mull style, and again, it's approved and in the paperwork. And then a single fuel selector valve approved and in the paperwork. Coming back over here, these are essentially all electrical functions. So we have an avionics switch. We have our master switch. Nav lights. This has to be on to get the ADS-B out function because it's a U avionics tail beacon. You have your landing light, taxi light. You have a push button start, throttle, stall warning horn, mixture, parking brake. It does work. I usually don't use it, but it does work. And carb heat. Coming down here, we have our prop lever. Oh gosh, what was this? Instrument lights, that's right. I believe that's instrument light as well, but I don't really use it much. I haven't flown it much at night. A little bit. Suction gauge, alternator, mag switch, and then here is your cowl flap. Coming down here, this is our flap lever. Pull up for retracting flaps, push down for extending flaps. This is your manual hydraulic pump should your engine driven pump fail, which is your primary source of hydraulic pressure. We do not have any electrical component to the hydraulic system. And then here's your landing gear lever. Bring it out of this guard to pull it up and press it down to put the gear down. These are your gear lights here. So you got green for down and red for up and locked. Trim up here, so it works very smoothly. I've heard of these getting bound up for people, but this one works great. I really enjoy it. Okay, I'll hop out of this airplane. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for sticking with me this long. I just wanted to make sure I covered everything. Give you a good idea of what this was like. As far as maintaining it, firewall forward like a 182. The rest of it, just take care of it and it'll take care of you. There is a support through Alexandria Aircraft. You can get most parts through them. I've got, geez, since I got this airplane, I've put in springs and kick down springs and new bushings and new weep seals and all kinds of different things, and so far I've had really good luck with them. The one part on this airplane that is a challenge to get a replacement for is the hydraulic power pack. This power pack has new bushings. It runs really smooth, or excuse me, not new bushings, new O-rings. It runs really smooth, works great, and I actually do have a spare power pack for this airplane. It is a core, but if you ever have issues with it, you do have an extra core, and so that's just kind of to give you some peace of mind. Flight characteristics on this plane, the power is just bananas in it. You can take off and barely be full power and you're airborne. You can climb out at 120 and 1500 to 2000 feet a minute. It's just fantastic. But here's the thing, it's extremely powerful, extremely fast, but it's really easy to fly. It's very responsive and intuitive, and I really think it's one of the nicest flying airplanes out there. I'm really sad to see it go, but it's time for someone else to enjoy it. And you know, the right person for this airplane has some tail wheel experience, has some high performance experience, perhaps in a Bonanza or so, and you just want to have something really neat that you just don't see very often and want to be maybe a little different and find interest in this stuff. So this is the airplane for you if that's the case. If you do buy it, please do not attempt to buy it from me if you're planning to keep it outside and so forth. This airplane needs to be kept in a hangar. It needs to be loved. The last several owners have really, I know them, and they've taken great care of the airplane, and I'd like to think that I have as well. And we got to keep taking care of this thing and be good stewards of it and pass it on. So keep it in a hangar, you know, love on the airplane, treat it right, and it'll treat you right, and you'll have a lot of fun with it. I'm gonna miss it a lot. I'm gonna spend a lot more money now to fly a lot slower, I think, but have a little more room. I'm getting rid of it because we had our second child in September, and we needed to get something a little bit bigger. Otherwise, I would love to hold on to this. So anyways, in conclusion, just appreciate your time. Feel free to reach out to me. This will be offered for sale soon, and I'll put my contact information in the description, so feel free to reach out with any questions. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.